Hello! This video is the first of a 3-video series on adding and subtracting negative and positive fractions. In this first video, we are just going to focus on positive and negative fractions. In order to add rational numbers, you'll need to find a common denominator first. To do that, what we need to do is we need to take a look at our denominators and find something that they both have in common. Pretty much we want to find their lowest common multiple. So if I count by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, and then I count by 3s, 3, 6, 9, 12, I want to find a number they have in common. So when I look at my two lists here of my multiples of 4 and 3, I can see that they both have a 12 in common. So that means my common denominator is going to be a 12. So let's set up our fractions so that we have 12 in the denominators. And so what we need to do is convert 1/4 into twelfths. So we don't want fourths anymore, we want twelfths. In order to change fourths to twelfths, we need to multiply by 3. Anytime that we have a fraction though, if we multiply the denominator by 3, we also need to multiply the numerator by 3. That's going to give us 3 twelfths. On the other side, we have thirds. We need to get from thirds to twelfths, and so that means we're going to multiply by 4. Again, multiply the top by 4 as well, and that's going to give us 8 twelfths. Now that we have a common denominator, we can go ahead and add 3 twelfths plus 8 twelfths is 11 twelfths. And that's our answer. Now the second problem has a negative sign, but it doesn't matter. We're still going to go about it the same way. The first thing we need to do is take a look at our denominators and find a multiple that they have in common. So if I count by 8s, 8, 16, 24, 32, and then I count by 12s, 12, 24, 36, I can see here that they both have a 24 in common. Therefore, our common denominator is going to be 24. All right, so now let's work on our multiplying. So we have eighths for the first fraction. That would mean that I would need to multiply by 3 in the numerator and the denominator in order to get the 24ths. That gives me 9 24ths. Over here, my second fraction, I'm going to multiply by 2. And that's going to give me negative 14 as my numerator. Now that we have a common denominator, we're going to go ahead and add 9 plus negative 14. That would be negative 5. And then our denominator stays the same. So negative 5 24ths is our answer. All right, now let's do a couple problems where we have subtraction involved. To subtract rational numbers, you'll need to use SAO and then find a common denominator. Remember, SAO means same, add, opposite. So that is using the additive inverse in order to do subtraction. So let's do that first on the first problem. We have 1 over 21 minus 6/7. So we're going to use SAO here and change it to plus negative 6/7. Once we use SAO, now we're going to go through the same process we did on the last screen. So we're going to check our denominators, find a multiple that they both go into. So if I think of 21, 42, and then I count by 7s, 21, they both have in common, and so that's going to be what I use for my common denominator. Now I'm going to look to multiply. So my first fraction is already in the correct form. It already has a 21 in the denominator. So that means I'm not going to change the numerator at all. I'm just going to bring it down. In my second fraction, though, in order to make a 21 in the denominator, I'm going to have to multiply by 3 and then also multiply the numerator by 3. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Okay, so now I can go ahead and add my two fractions. 1 plus negative 18, that's negative 17. And then I have 21sts in the denominator. Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one. Again, first thing we need to do is use SAO because it is a subtraction problem. So I'm going to change it to adding -2. Now we look for our common denominator. So we have multiples of 10. And then we're also looking at multiples of 15. Looks like I can stop there because I see that I have a 30 for both the 10 and the 15. So let's set up our new fraction with our 30s in the denominators. And now we're going to go ahead and change our numerators to reflect that new denominator. The first fraction, -7/10, we're going to need to multiply that fraction by 3 because 10 times 3, that's how we're going to get 30ths. So -7 times 3 is -21. Over on my second fraction, I'm going to multiply by 2. -2 times 2 is -4. Okay, now our last step is to add our two fractions together. So -21 plus -4 is -25. Then our denominator stays a 30. Yep, hopefully you saw that we can reduce this answer. We can divide them both by 5. So that gives us a final answer of -5/6. Okay, now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause the video, try the following 4 problems, and then play the video to check your answers. If you want to do just one at a time, we'll go ahead and say this is problem number 1, this is problem number 2, this is 3, and this is 4. Okay, go ahead and try it. All right, so my common denominator for number 1 is going to be 18, so I've set up my denominators here. The second fraction, since it already has an 18 in the denominator, that's going to stay the same. But the other fraction, I'm going to have to multiply by 3 in order to get a 3 in the denominator. So on the top here, I have -1 times 3, that's -3. All right, so now -3 plus 7, that would equal 4. So we get 4/18. Reduce that, divide them both by 2, and I get 2/9. Okay, let's go ahead and try number 2. My common denominator for number 2 is going to be 16. It looks like we're going to have to use SAO on this one because I do have a minus sign right here. So I'm going to change it to plus -5. My first fraction, since it already has a 16 in the denominator, that just means I'm going to leave the -9 alone. However, in my second fraction, I'm going to have to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 2. So I get -10. All right, so -9 plus -10, that's -19/16. And that is an improper fraction, so we're going to change it to a mixed number. 16 goes into 19 once with a remainder of 3. So my final answer is -1 3/16. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one, number 3. Okay, so here we have a negative plus a negative. It's already written as an addition problem, so we're going to go ahead and first find our common denominator. Common denominator for this one is going to be 36. And now we're going to have to do some multiplying on this one. So here we have 4/9. In order to get 36 on the bottom, we're going to have to multiply by 4. So that gives us -16 in the numerator. Our other fraction, we're going to have to multiply by 3. That's going to give us -15. And once we have our common denominator, we're going to go ahead and add -16 plus -15. That's -31/36. And that's it for that one. All right, last problem. Here we go, number 4. I do have a subtraction problem here, so I need to use SAO, or in this case, you might notice since it has a subtraction sign and a negative right next to each other, we're actually going to use bloop bloop for this one. So we're going to change it into a big addition problem. All right, common denominator between 6 and 10 is 30. However, you may have thought to just use 60, and that's okay. You would still get the same answer. You're just going to have to reduce at the end. So let's use 30. For our multiplying, 5, 6, we're going to have to multiply by 5. That gives us 25 thirtieths. Over here, we're going to do times 3. That's going to be 9 thirtieths. All right, then I'm going to add my two fractions together. I'm going to get 34 thirtieths. And I can reduce this. Either I can divide the numerator and denominator by something that goes into both of them, or I can change it to a mixed number first. I think I'm going to change it to a mixed number. 30 goes into 34 once with a remainder of 4. And then now I can divide them both by 2, so I get 1 and 2/15. Okay, good job, everybody.